Hello, everyone, and welcome to this episode of We Create You. We are going to be reviewing Step Back History, so I'm pretty excited about it. I will be looking at your comments if you guys have any advice for Step Back. And Tristan, do you want to tell us a little bit about your channel, why you started it, and maybe some of the issues you're having?
Sure. Thank you for having me on this wonderful show. I have a lot of fun watching these. So Step Back started. All right, to go like really far back. I don't know how much overlap we have with the last time I came on the We Created You hangout, but I'll give a quick TLDR. I had a YouTube channel for a number of years, but it was back in the days when the days of video responses and when YouTube was a very different place. Eventually, I realized I was still in that mentality in 2015, and so I shut it down. And about 6 or 7 months later, I came back with Step Back. The main reason I made it is because I really like I like this format. I think it's a really great website. And I have plans, at least I hope, to kind of be the history promoter in this age of everyone promoting STEM, to be a voice for at least the historical profession, if not the humanities and the social science, while we're all embracing academic stuff. And then I looked on YouTube and found that in my discipline of history, there was very few channels. There's a few more now, a couple years in, but back in 2015, there were only a few, and they were all a lot of like these sort of, I want to say amateur historians, but not trained historians who were doing a lot of videos that had a lot of maps with arrows on them. There wasn't a lot of the stuff that historians talk the most about, which is not battles and tactics and stuff. And so I started Step Back, and it's been going since my first video came out in September 17th, 2015. And it's been a pretty good journey ever since.
And I think that's one of the things I like most about your channel is that it's not like the History Channel, and it's not all war. Like, it's all the other things that happen.
Yeah, I've kind of, this will actually come into the discussion that we're going to have about weaknesses and strengths and everything like that too, because this is something that I have been not reconsidering, but something that I've had to think a lot more about. So one of the things that's come up recently is that because of the wonderful website Morning Fame, which kind of got circled around the We Created You community, which is a really great site that really crunches your numbers and puts them out in ways that make sense to humans. I mean, you make robots, so you could probably look at analytics and see much more than I can. But for us who finished math at quadratic equations, there's some stuff that I thought that the data that Morning Fame brought out, and one of the things that showed is that Step Back is overperforming in subscriber growth and retention and engagement, but is extremely underperforming when it comes to views, when it comes to watch time and views, which means that the stuff that I'm making, the channel's growing a lot, but it's having trouble in courting in non-subscriber views, which are always going to be a percentage. For me, they are a kind of unnaturally low percentage, which means that the people who like my content like it a lot, but people who don't watch my stuff don't find it. And that's something that I've been thinking about for quite a while now. And the main thing that I'm starting to come to a conclusion about might come from a conversation I had with Cody, but I feel like I'm hogging the mic. So if you have anything that you want to say to that effect, I'd love to hear.
No, this is, there's no such thing as hogging the mic in a channel review. This is all about you and your channel. There's been one comment so far about it, and the Literative says that they've had a similar conversation about history podcasts, and narrative history is so popular but unsatisfying to me for many reasons. So similar struggles.
Yes, Avon she's a very awesome part of the community, and she's I consider her a friend of mine. She's a professor way up in the barren lands of Sudbury, where it's like this town in the middle of Ontario where there's just woods for days, and then all of a sudden there's this town with a giant nickel in the middle of it, and she's a professor there, and it's really cool. Anyways, Yeah, so I'm starting to think that there's a distinct format problem that Step Back was having, and this is something that I'm planning on changing in the next couple months. So I'll walk you guys through what happened. So I'm friends with a guy named Cody who runs a channel called the Alternate History Hub, and he gave me some advice before I started Step Back. But then we met up, we kind of lost touch, and we met up again at VidCon, and we've been running a podcast together and all sorts of stuff. And he's been giving me some really good, actionable advice about what to do with Step Back. And the latest thing that he told me that I think a lot of you people out there will really like to hear is that making, and this is going to hurt. This hurt me, and it's still something that I'm like going to fight with, and that is people on YouTube, because of how YouTube works, they don't click on things that don't have a recognizable subject, which means that if you're going to tell us, like, I liked making stories about things that people didn't know about, but what would be really cool if they did know about. And I found that until you've already developed an audience, that's not an indulgence you can have. And that at the very beginning, what you should be doing is taking subjects that are broad and search friendly and doubling down on those and start from like the real basics. And also, as an academic, he was saying that, like, you know, you're stuck in a bubble of history, and so things that you think are obvious are not. And so the example he gave is that he did a video on one of his channels about the Great Depression, and I was like, I wouldn't have done a video about the Great Depression because I thought the Great Depression is something that everyone knows about. It's too obvious. And then his brother was like, yeah, I didn't really know that much about it until I did the research for the video. So I guess that I was being too academic and I was being too specific, and I really need to go with like things that people have heard about and will search, because as Avin said, like, there's stuff like in the podcast format, for example, where you kind of more fall in love with a channel, like it's very much based on like loyalty to the show. Then you could do a subjects that, you know, people didn't even know they would like. But when it's YouTube, when everything is search driven, you kind of have to be making content that they are already looking for. You can't make content that that you hope people will look for, or things that you want people to know about. You want to kind of tell them more about something that they've already heard of. And I think that's the big hurdle that I was hitting.
Yeah.
But I would really love to hear what the chat thinks. I'd like to hear what you think, Jacqueline. You've talked to so many experts and so many people. You're so connected. I'd love to hear if you have thoughts on this.
So looking at the analytics you sent, most of the traffic sources you get are from suggested videos. So I would think it would have to kind of be linked to things that are already there. Like when I was watching through your videos today, a lot of the crash course things came up. But it was only when I watched things like you had Islam in your title and that would do the crash course Islam, or the fascist one, and that went to like certain things. So I'm guessing maybe that's why you did your fascist video. So it's kind of like linking that, and there's not, the piece of pie for browse is smaller for yours compared to the suggested videos. And I was wondering where do most of your conversions to subscribers come from, if you know that? And the other one was in your, what you wanted it to get to people that maybe didn't have history before, and wanted to know more about it. So that, I think that's when you're talking about the Great Depression and stuff like that, that's the things that those people are probably going to look for first. And then, like you're saying, you could kind of get them in and find these like little hidden gem stories elsewhere.
Yeah, this is something that that I think is a really good idea, where I had all these like weird stories that are attached to bigger things, and maybe I just need to make them as like stories within the bigger video. And I think that that's something that I could totally do. And that's something I've thought a lot about, because I think with the suggested video thing that you're saying, it's true. And this kind of feeds into what I've been saying, where it's like, if once you start watching, like once you found a video on my channel that you like, you do stay. I I know that sounds really braggy, so I really don't want to do that. But like the people who find Step Back and like Step Back like it a lot, but the casual viewers don't come, and that's why like the search percentage is really low, and the browse features are really low. Because if you haven't heard of my channel before, you're very unlikely to click my stuff. And when you talked about converting subscribers, so I actually get a lot of subscribers from, I'd probably say the biggest source of subscriber growth for me has been collaborations. So it is a video on, I had this joke with Kelly that we've been running for a while now, which was my most successful videos are on other people's channels. Because the most successful video I've ever been associated with is the one on Jonathan's channel. The second most successful video I did is the one that's on Will's channel, The Exploration, I think it's called now. And the third would be the one I did on the Alternate History Hub. And so, again, it's like people aren't discovering my content, they're discovering me through other creators. And I also get probably a lot from doing the podcast. I notice that that causes a lot of growth. But yeah, I think that it's the discovery, and that's where, like, as you said, you went through my videos, and I think the titles are okay. I think I could work on them. I'm slowly revamping all of my thumbnails to be better, and I think that they're decent. So I think that it's the subjects I'm covering.
Yeah, somebody in the chat asked if you could change the titles. I guess they meant like kind of where you said you'd have the story in there, but could you relate it to a more common question with history? I think that was maybe what they were getting at. And then also when I looked at, you sent me like your, I guess it's views or subscribers, I'm not sure, over time. You can definitely see there's like these big giant spikes, and I'm guessing those are the times that you had the collaborations with people. There are like 4 distinct like giant spikes that you have. But I also like that you don't just collab with people in your genre. Like you collabed with Elliot to do stuff, and like you reach outside of just the little history circle.
Yeah, that's my way to try and make my work applicable to other people. The thing that I'm doing at the moment, one of the videos I have coming out in 2 weeks is about is trying to rope in some Dungeons and Dragons search traffic. So I'll see how that works. But this change that I've been doing is not going to start showing up until later, because my content creation is on a month rotation. So I have to, like, I'm writing a bunch of scripts furiously right now, because on the 1st I'm going into the YouTube space to record like 6 videos, and then I'm going to edit them all in one like hell week, and then they're just all going to sit on my channel waiting to come out for a month, which is I found through collaborations is not the most common way of making content.
I'm gonna screen share your channel real quick, because there's questions about titles and thumbnails. Is that okay?
Sure. Yeah. I'd share my screen so I can if I could, so we can just, like, if you ever wanted to just go through the analytics, I'm like, everything is open. I don't hide anything on my channel.
Yeah, if you want to go through some of the analytics, we can do that too.
Sure.
So I'm gonna go ahead.
Right. While you're doing that, I'll just say hi to Jade. It was actually her channel review that made me be like, I want to get involved with this stuff, because I thought that was a very productive conversation that you two had.
So I am, and yeah, I love that more and more people are joining the chat with questions. There is a question about your thumbnails and stuff, and when you're revamping, are you going to change it to a theme? And I just wanted to show your thumbnails, because I think they already have a pretty good theme. You have your logo in there, and you do what we do too, where you have like the curves on the edges for the older ones. And this was a general question, are you going away from the animation stuff, or are you mixing it in, or what is your plan?
I am going away from the animation stuff. I'm still trying to get it in where I can get it in a good way, but if I'm going to keep to a weekly schedule, it's just not feasible with the time constraints. It might be if, like, in the distant future, I am done my PhD and my channel's making enough revenue that I could consider something like hiring editors and stuff like that. But at the moment, it's too much. So when it comes to my thumbnails, just like talk you guys through it, there's actually several formats that I've like invented. Like I've kind of changed formats, and now I'm retroactively going back to do my most recent one. So if you look at the one in the top left corner, the "What is Fascism Really?" And also if you look at the one on the bottom second from the right, which is the "Did the Vikings have Inuit slaves?" That's the current format I'm going with. And I'm doing like one a day where I change one thumbnail per day to update to the new format. So eventually they'll all be like this, because the latest thing I saw said that the text on thumbnails make them clicked on 40% less. So now I'm getting rid of all the text.
I did not know that text did that. I have heard many, many, many times that having your face in the thumbnail is supposed to help, because then they make a personal connection right away.
Yeah, I was I try to do that as much as possible, so I'm trying to get really, really in on the faces there. Uh, I've probably spent way too much time thinking about thumbnail design than I should.
Most people would say there's no such thing as spending too much time on thumbnails.
But luckily, I actually took a little bit of Photoshop in high school in like 2006, and it kind of was like riding a bike, so it came back a little bit.
So, what's your best search video? Do you know? I know you said that a
Uh,
lot of them are bad. Like a lot of the controversial ones are the ones that drive people there. So I'm guessing that's not always good, because that's just probably going to get people stirred up and not subscribed.
Depends on the topic, but I find that when I do controversial topics, I get a lot of traffic either way, and so it does
Okay,
result in a lot of subscribers.
that's good.
It also results in a lot of hate, so it means that like the retention on the video goes down, but the channel grows overall. So I think that they're a thing that are okay to do sometimes. So when it comes to traffic, when it comes to search traffic, I have a few videos that score really well. So I have a series on world religions, and those ones tend to do fairly well on search. So I'm just loading up. So my most popular search terms are the Spanish flu. So that's my Spanish flu video. Sikhism, because I guess people, my video being slightly shorter than the test tube video, did well for that. And also, I think it might be because I can't verify this because I haven't looked at the countries, but because in Canada we've had two Sikh politicians come into prominence in the last couple of years, that it's something that people are looking up. Neoconservatism, like it's these are like these. I thing is that this data was all here all these years, and I wasn't thinking. Now I'm like, oh, like people come to my channel when they're looking for videos on subjects on things that they've heard about but they don't know about, and that's what I should have been doing this entire time. And maybe I should have been making videos about like Ukrainian revolutionaries that, like, 6 of my subscribers really wanted me to make a video about.
I think it gets back to that whole help hub hero thing. So your help content is like, what is somebody searching if they're super confused about history? And then your hub content could be like those really cool stories that no one else has anywhere, and the people that are subscribed get to hear those.
Yeah, I've thought about the Hero Hub help trifecta, and I just wonder if my channel can produce videos fast enough to really exploit that. Because it sounds like what they want you to do is make like a hub and a help video every week at least, and then a hero video every once in a while. Like, there seems to like a lot of YouTube advice. I think it's something that We Create EDU can talk a lot about, and that is a lot of YouTube advice is generated around people who make videos where they can sit down, talk through a few points, and then edit it and have it out. And so they can make like multiple videos a week and stuff, which is something that we can't really do.
Yeah, it's definitely more for quantity than quality in a lot of ways. Sometimes you can beat it, but you have to be CGP gray, and you probably had to start like a long time ago, or have some magical thing pick you up. But I think all your content's going to be evergreen. I think a lot of times when they talk to people, their help content's evergreen, but yours is history, so it should be evergreen.
That's true. I actually I have my idea funnel thing, and one of the points I get is for evergreen content, and very rarely does something not show up as evergreen because I think like maybe a few ideas that are like things that in 10 years might be significantly different than the video would be if I made it now. Like somebody asked me to make a video about something to do with the Syrian civil war, and I was like, if I made it now, like someone searching 10 years from now is not going to like learn anything from that.
Yeah. Um, the chat's just being funny. Man, I had a question to ask you now. I can't remember.
I'm sorry. I'm a motor mouth if I'm giving the
opportunity. No, it was the chat. They were like, yeah, we should just be CGP gray. Yeah, that's how we do it.
Now, I have been following though. I have been trying to find out how to strategies for doing the content when you can't do when once a week is the most you can do, or once in a while is what you can do. And Amy Schmittauer, who I think is the best YouTube guru out there, which I think a lot of people underestimate because she's a she. They really don't. That she has a lot of really amazing advice, and one of the things she does is that you can do the like once a week or once in a while thing, but you just have to be really socially invested in every video you make. So you have to market the crap out of every single release because you need to drive as much traffic to it in the first few days as you possibly can.
Right.
Otherwise, it's not going to have as good a tail as you want it to. And so you have to just have to really hit the road when it comes to promotion. And you have to be a much more aggressive promoter if you are doing stuff less often.
Especially if what Veritasium says is true and the newer content is getting dished out more favorably than the old content.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is another thing that I was wondering about, or that I was thinking about, and that is the question about whether or not you should just do whether you should not do a subject because someone else did it. And because of the freshness thing, I don't care about it anymore. Sometimes I don't even check.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to do it. And I always think everyone has a different take on it, and people are going to find you different ways than they're going to find other people. And there aren't that many big like history channels either. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I found the biggest, and I got to do a podcast with them. So I guess that's the most I can do.
So, the question was actually a suggestion. Like you were saying before with not knowing what like regular people know about history. If you ever want, you can ask in the Slack. Like these are the things I'm thinking about. Like how much do you know about these kind of topics? For mostly everything, I'm going to say not much.
Oh well, like because I thought I thought that like with Slack, like it's still kind of academic-y people. Like I thought I should start like asking random people on the street or something.
I know a lot about the history of science and the history of the space flight program. I know a lot about that. But other history, no, not so much, because like in school, it was mostly what you're saying when they're like, here's a war and here's some dates. And I was like, this is dumb and boring. And then I learned what real history was. I was like, that's pretty interesting. So I don't know. Maybe other people in the chat know a lot more than I do, but I know that I don't know much about history.
That's really good advice because Kelly was getting mad that she was my grandma task for all this.
Yeah, she just said that in the chat. So, chat, how much do you know about history? Up and Adam says Jade says she doesn't know either. So, you can ask us sciencey people. We only know science.
Fair enough. I should do that. I feel like I'm starting to get a feel for it, but I would like to check in once in a while because now I'm like throwing out. Now, like I had a list of 500 plus video ideas, and I think I'm tossing out over 3/4 of them.
That's a lot of ideas.
Well, it's just anytime something interesting occurs to me or I hear about something interesting, but now now I'm like really killing videos that I really liked. And now I understand like why when you hear like about Vsauce 3 did a video, Jake did a video the other day where he said that he kills something like 3/4 of the videos that he goes to make before they even go live. And I'm starting to get that now.
And this is a question I had when watching some of your videos today, and I don't know if this is just a me thing or if other people feel the same way. You can chat, you can tell me. But sometimes I wonder, like, how do you know some of these really old historical things? Like the one you said, I can't remember what the name of the fish blood in the jar what's called.
Garum.
But you were saying like they used it for like laxatives and stuff, and I was like, how do you guys figure some of this out? Is it just all text, or like, is it, I don't know. That to me is interesting, but maybe that's because I'm sciencey.
I mean, I don't want to accidentally turn it into an archaeology lecture, but like, it's very much detective work. It's like, I think from what I found with that, a lot of the information I found from the Garum video was from a classicist, or a classicist is basically like a historian who studies Roman Greece, who is studying Garum as his focus, and he had like one of those woefully undertapped resources, which are those really terrible looking .edu personal homepages where people write up their research for public. And he had a long thing where he was talking about it. And I think that when it came to the medicinal stuff, he was talking about it. It came from like a surviving Roman, medicine book, or a recipe book, because in a lot of times back then, recipe books and medicine books were kind of in the same thing.
This is kind of also random and off topic a little bit, but I know that Crash Course is coming out with the history of science. So if you wanted to curtail off of any of that, just to let you know that they're doing that soon.
I learned very recently that technically I am a historian of technology, so that is technically the area of focus that I'm in. So I guess I should get on that.
I mean, don't make like a whole series or anything, but just like, I didn't know if you knew that they were doing that.
Nah, I'm getting the DL on the stuff because like you got friends in high places. I do not.
Chat just said maybe how do historians know about history video.
That is a video that would be very fun to make, and is guaranteed that no one will watch it. But it is something that that's kind of what my second channel is for, is a video like that. So I actually am probably gonna have to record those next week, so that's something you can keep in mind.
Are there any topics you want to run by us now, or you want to just do that in the Slack later?
Oh yeah, I could do that. I could go through. If you guys want to really, do you guys want to grammar test some of my video ideas?
We will be great grammar testers.
Is that like a universal academic thing? It's like the test about whether or not you need to cite something.
I don't know. I only got a master's. I didn't go PhD, and mine's in engineering, so not the same.
A few people have told me, Kelly and some other people have said that like if your grandma would know what it was, then you don't have to cite it. But other than that, you have to like cite your source.
It's good to know.
Oh boy. Okay. Where did I leave off? Where did I stop killing my ideas? Oh yeah. I had one idea, and this is one that I've been thinking about, and I don't know if it'll get good search traffic, but I really like it, and that is the time traveler's cheat sheet, which would be if you had to go back in time with one piece of paper, what would you need to put on it to like make the most of your time there?
Yeah. Where would you go?
Oh gosh, I'm good now, but I try to go anywhere post penicillin, so maybe the 1920s is about the earliest I'd go. But then I'd be like in prime World War II drafting age, so I don't know if I want to do that either.
So is it a list of things that you would know about the era, not like a time traveler's like stop this from happening? Is it just to fit in?
I was thinking more stuff like how to build a compass with no technology, or like or like how to build a really rudimentary microscope and then how to recognize what penicillin looks like, or how to like kind of like, since I'm in technology history, I'm always really interested in like how many steps we are away from like being able to make something with our hands. Like, did you ever hear the story about the person who made a toaster from scratch?
Yeah, I was gonna ask you if you knew that guy.
Yeah, and I really like that. And so I was trying to figure out, if you were like sent back in time or to a desert island or something, and you had no technology on you, what is like the most sophisticated thing you could put together? It was part of like a novel idea that I was going to do, where someone gets stuck in the Middle Ages, and it's kind of like The Martian, but for time travel. But
The chat likes it.
all right.
I heard there's one guy that you never, I don't think you see his face, and he doesn't have social media or anything, but he's like out in the woods and he creates like old timey tech.
Primitive technology.
Yeah, that guy.
Yeah, the guy he's like one of the biggest channels I think on YouTube right now, and he just goes into the woods and makes stuff. He's also Australian, so I don't know what you guys are getting up to on that island there, Jade, but also he's in the jungle or in like the woods in Australia, and I would just think like, wow, all right. So he's gonna make videos up until he accidentally steps on a funnel web, and then we're done.
That's true. Sorry, the chat is saying lots of stuff. That's an interesting idea. I also like the idea of what you would need to know to travel back in time to fit into that time period. If you do that, I suggest tying it in with the Highlander series. The main character is a doctor who tries to recreate 20th century medicine in the 18th century. Kelly says, now that I think about it, the grandma test is a little ageist/sexist. Still useful, though.
Yep.
Because somebody earlier in the chat said, I bet most grandmothers know more about history than us youngins, which is probably true. And Jade says, we don't have Amazon. We have to make do.
Oh, goodness. But if you want to rein in and talk about the channel, so like that was the major problem, and I just talked you through where I was on subjects, and I would like to think, if you guys think I'm in the right direction on this, that I just was going way too specific, and I need to go way more broad and way more general, and the concept that YouTube is not a place where people go to find out about things they've never heard of before, but it's a place where people go to find out about things that they've heard of but not about.
Yes. Because it's the number 2 search engine after Google.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, that's how I would have found you. If we weren't friends, that's how I would have found your channel. Was I don't understand something in history, Google, and then come up to one of your videos, and then you would have sounded like a normal, sane, non-conspiracy person that really knew who they were talking about. And then when I had more history questions, I would come back to your channel. That's what I would do as like a non-history buff, personally.
Oh yeah, that's another one of my wonderful favorite things to do, is that when I am looking up for new ideas, if I go on a YouTube search and I find that there's a ton of videos that are conspiracy theorists or racists or something like that, then I know I need to make a video on that topic. Because not only is it going to get tons and tons of traffic from everyone telling me how wrong I am, but to be the one non-conspiracy theorist talking about a subject will make you will get you attention, and especially because there used to be a YouTube skeptic community that used to debunk conspiracy theories, but for some, sorry, there's like, I don't know if you guys can hear that, but there's like a party in the street going on. Someone has a very loud car radio, but anyways, yeah, so the YouTube skeptic community turned into an alt-right fascist like community. So they don't really talk about science anymore. They talk about hating women and people of color and such. So,
well, yeah,
there's a hole to fill.
If for a big topic that's coming up, just randomly popped in my head, that the JFK stuff possibly being released, would you do something on that would be super timely, and it's also going to have a bunch of conspiracy crazy nuts saying things, or do you stay away from like newsy things like that?
I would like to do newsy things, but I also am limited by my cycle. So if I know something's coming up, I can do it. But this was kind of a surprise, so it might be something I can work into December. But I think that the JFK assassination is always a source of traffic, so I don't think I could do it on the day. But
Right.
It'll get attention when it comes out when I do it. But that is one that's on my list to do at some point.
The comment said, "You're almost certainly right about how to bring more people in, but it's a literatives channel. They can't help you be the test audience, but they like your older stuff a lot." So
I'm getting that a lot these days, and it makes me sad.
They say they do like the idea of piggybacking on weird little stories on broader topics.
Yeah, that's definitely high on my list of things to do at the moment, because I feel like I'm taking out part of my soul every time I pull out a bad story, or pull out a story that isn't YouTube friendly. But you know what? I think what this means is that once I've established an audience, like maybe once I've gotten, I don't know, a silver play button or something, then I can lean on my laurels a bit and do a video that might not get the most search traffic, but would be something that's more like, for me as the artist.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe once my dissertation is finished, these are good subjects for episodes of a podcast, which, if an audience wants to come and listen to a podcast, you need much less people to find your podcast and listen to it for it to be, to do well. And a podcast is more based on the show, not on the subject of every episode. So you're more likely to get people sticking around for your stuff. So those might be things I save for a podcast I do someday. I don't know.
And you just have to be careful when you start changing it to see if it, how your audience retention and views and stuff goes after that. Once you change it, because maybe you get such like high retention because they're like cool, awesome stories that you can't find anywhere else. You know what I mean? So if you change, you got to make sure that you're still bringing in people, but then you're also like getting them to come back all the time. Because if you did get some history buffs, they're probably not going to be like where you're saying like, I already know about the Great Depression. So I guess you just got to keep on top of the analytics if you're changing up your content.
Yeah, I'm hoping it won't require too much change. Like, I hope that even if I did my Great Depression video, I would do it in a way that provides value for both the history buff who already knows about the Depression and somebody who's never heard of it before. One of the things I tried to sell Step Back on was that it was a way to look at the familiar and unfamiliar ways. And by doing these obscure subjects, I wasn't doing that. I was looking at the unfamiliar in unfamiliar ways. So I might as well live up to the actual seeing history sideways like slogan that I made for myself and actually do it.
So do you think you do more things like I don't know what they're really called, but we call them Girl Scouts. Like that video where like you're taking like, this is a thing you know some about, tell a little bit about the war, and then like this is a side story that you probably never heard of. More stuff like that.
I hope to. Here, I'll give you guys an example. I'm going to actually, since you're all my friends, I'll actually give you guys a rundown of the next 6 videos I'm making, and I'll give you guys the subjects, and I'll show you guys how it's a bit more general, but not enough that like people, it's all stuff that someone who doesn't know about history would click on, but not stuff that will be boring. And so I'm doing part 4 of a series that I've been doing for a long time that people have been watching. One on Edith Windsor, who recently died. She's a gay rights activist who passed away in September. And then one on Zoroastrianism, which is one that I've gotten a lot of requests to talk about, but people have heard about Zoroastrianism, but they don't know what it is. It's something they've heard of, but not about. I think I should just use that as the slogan. Sharia law, the Islamic legal code, which is something that people have heard a lot. And that was one of those ones where when I looked up on YouTube, I found nothing but like racist diatribes or videos in Arabic. And I thought, well, neither of these are super useful, so that video should exist. And the Illuminati, which, going on the conspiracy thing, that was another one that... and then the last one will be on neo-Nazis, because that's another thing that we're hearing a lot about these days that people don't really know a lot about. And so those are the examples of the kinds of topics that I'm changing to. And for those in the chat who are Step Back regulars, you know that that doesn't sound very different from my regular content, but it is. They're all much more search friendly than like. I think I had like before I changed it, I had on my list like to talk about one of the wives of Muhammad that somebody had recommended that I do a video about because it wasn't fair that I was choosing one for a video I did like a year ago, and I was getting lost down these like rabbit holes about these really obscure topics that my fans really wanted me to make videos about, but nobody else would want.
She said, sorry, go ahead.
And every video I make is arguably probably 100 something hours of work. And so if I'm going to do something on those subjects, I'd have to do something else.
You said that was your favorite video, though, right? That one that you did?
Yes. Yes. Mostly because it has a lot to do. It's my favorite because not so much because of the technical stuff. It was my first video when I started using the Adobe Creative Suite. It's my first post-Patreon video. But because that subject meant a lot to me, especially when it comes to, I have a lot of, like I did my master's on Islamophobia, and I grew up in a very Muslim-heavy part of Canada, and I really, like, Islamophobia really gets to me, and Aisha is a historical figure that just gets treated like a racist bargaining chip because she was a child bride. That's the big thing that everyone says. And they usually use it as a cudgel to attack an entire religion about. But like, I'm like, well, she has way more of a story than that. And I decided to make that video. And also because I got to work with Inés. And Inés is a wonderful person to work with.
Agreed. But I liked even in that video, like you showed, like you obviously knew which one that you were more for, but you did show the other side too. You're like, and this is what like these people think.
Yeah.
And why.
Yeah. The issue of her age comes up, and it has problems both for the Islamophobes who use her as a cudgel, but also there are some people in very extreme, very like fundamentalist sects of Islam that use her age as a excuse for child marriage in some parts of the world, and I think both of those are gross.
Yeah, agreed. But like with your fascism video and stuff, I like that you take a topic like with Sharia law, and you're gonna put that in like historical context, and it gives it more of a story and more of a place instead of like a, you know, this is my opinion, this is, you know, arguing kind of thing.
Yeah, I'm starting to think that Step Back history is becoming very valuable in our kind of weird moment we're in, where we're not new things, new words, new ideas are coming out of the woodwork and becoming relevant when they haven't been in a very long time. And there's a lot of very old stuff being talked about that has gone long enough that most people who lived through it are dead. And so like I thought that Step Back is really well poised for trying to unpack these things because people aren't looking at a lot of things with context, like Sharia law. Sharia law has been around for over 1,000 years, and yet, you know, everyone who's talking about it has like read one book by like Salman Rushdie or something, and they think that they're all of a sudden Islamic scholars.
Chat, what do you think about all these topics? Do you have a favorite of the ones listed? They said their 7-year-old likes the Illuminati one. He's bizarrely obsessed.
They're fascinating. My dissertation research has to do with, I have to do a lot of research on 9/11 truthers, and conspiracy communities are fascinating communities to study. See, Zoroastrianism, that was one that I have a lot of hope for, because that is a word that if you asked any random person on the street, they would probably know what it was or know that it exists, but they wouldn't be able to tell you the first thing about it. Like, for example, for the Zoroastrians, did you know that where they can legally do it, they do a thing called, I don't think it's not sky burial, but it's something else. But it's very similar to sky burials in Tibet, where when somebody dies, they're very much like, they don't believe in hurting the environment. They're a very environmentalist religion. So if they are legally allowed to, when somebody dies, what they do is they just put them on the roof of a temple and let buzzards eat them, and then they take the bones down a few days later. And
It's better than what we do.
yeah, they can only do it in like some rural parts of India and Iran, because in India, a lot of where a lot of Zoroastrians live, it's illegal in a lot of spots. But also because of unregulated use of DDT, there aren't that many vultures around anymore because they're dead.
It just reminds me of one of our We Create EDU people did a whole video on how to do burials and stuff, and which one's the most eco-friendly, and found out pretty much nothing is. So there's one.
Well, isn't there one where you basically they just put a bunch of alkaline stuff and hot water, and you basically just get flushed down the drain?
I think so.
I like that one. That one sounds fun.
They also like the Sharia law one. I think that's a good one.
That one's good. The Sharia law one is one that is kind of what I was expecting. That's one where I'm going to have to really batten down the hatches. And that one is going to get a lot of views. It's going to get me a lot of subscribers. It's also going to get a lot of dislikes and a lot of hate comments. That's why I've deputized half of We Create EDU to nuke my comments whenever they can.
Yeah, you might have to give a warning before you're going to release that one.
It'll be fun.
But I think these are all not even just good for your channel, but I think they're all important topics for people to know.
Miriam is very correct. If you want to talk about burial and death and dying, Ask a Mortician would be a very, very good channel to subscribe to, because Caitlin Dougherty, who runs that channel, is a genius. Is probably in my top 10 YouTube channels at the moment.
Maybe you could do a collab.
Oh, I wish. She's TV famous now. So she was on Adam Marin's Everything. So she's what's it called? She has a book. She just released a book, and we just went to the bookstore a couple weeks ago, and it was on the shelves, in the new releases section. So she has grown beyond YouTube. She has ascended. She's like the YouTube version of when the aliens ascend and become beings of pure energy.
Yeah. I remember it was 2 years ago, I think Chelsea is we used to do what are 5 YouTube channels not a lot of people know about, and that was one of hers she suggested. So she's come a long way.
Yep. Anybody can do it. Anybody. It's still possible, because I think she started her YouTube channel in 2015, 2016, something like that. So it's still doable. You just have to, it's just more competitive, so you have to be creative. And she was literally the only mortician on YouTube, so she did it.
Do you have more questions you want to ask us? I've just noticed we're coming up towards the end of the time.
Oh. So, So I'm getting a lot of feedback saying they really want the cartoons to return. And that's making me nervous, because I've gotten a few comments to that extent as well. I would like to hear more about this, because the reality of time would not permit it, at least not until the dissertation's done. But I'd love to know what it was about the animated stuff that made it so compelling.
I also feel like animated channels in general do better than talking head channels sometimes. I don't know why.
Yeah, I'm on the fence about that, because in some ways that's true, but in other ways, having the face builds that relationship. You look into the camera, and they're becoming your friend slowly over videos.
And I mean, I already knew you and all, but it's weird. I felt like I trusted the videos where I saw you more than I just saw the animation.
That too. There's another like kind of I put it in the form, but one thing that I have said is that my long term career goal is to be like a Neil deGrasse Tyson for history, and I felt like doing all of my work from behind a cartoon avatar would have hurt that in the long run.
Miriam says she's actually prefers a person on screen. She says there are already a lot of animation channels out there.
Yeah, I also think that like given the fact that I have such easy access to the YouTube space, like I can't not use that opportunity. Like I can't have the YouTube space be 2 subway stops away from my apartment and then spend all my time here drawing like circles on Adobe Illustrator. Like it feels like a waste of precious resources.
I feel like if you're thinking about it from like a professional perspective, like which ones need animations and which ones don't. Like what stories are you telling that are furthered by the animation compared to doesn't matter like if you're talking and you show a lot of the graphics you would show the animations anyway.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's not like I have stopped drawing. I still do drawings for my videos. They're just not as common. Maybe I could do more, and that's a fair criticism. That's something I can do. But I felt like when I was doing my stuff in order to be more efficient, I had a lot of animation slides where it was a drawing of me talking, and it was literally just my arms moving and doing like I'm like, all right, well, like, I want to just do that.
Yeah, so unless it like enhances whatever you're trying to show or tell, um, I mean, we do animations, but sometimes it's for like sensors and the insides of them and things you can't see. So, if it's something that is enhanced by it, then maybe do it just for that one. But you're going to probably get more bang for your buck being consistent rather than doing animations.
Yeah, I was thinking maybe like in the long term future, I might like make some hero content and make like one of those, like make like a something like a feature length documentary or something, and those could have like animation segments. But this is like we're talking 2020 2021 time, where like it's on the other side of a dissertation, which might as well be like a million years from now. So I have no idea what's on that side of it. It really highly depends upon where the channel is when I defend.
Anybody else in the chat have opinions about animations
Or if you have any questions, I
or
love
questions?
answering questions. I feel like I just ran through my like some recent things that I've been doing. Um,
Did
I was
we?
gl- I was really glad though that you pointed out because I don't get to see other people's data all that often. So I actually didn't know that like my suggested traffic being so much higher than my browse features was actually not normal.
I think that happens with us, but we don't do a lot of searchable content. But I think for people that get things driven to them, it's usually search traffic. There's only 2 videos of ours that do search traffic, and they're the most watched videos. Everything that's suggested is a lot lower.
My most suggested videos do usually have a lot of high search traffic, and my except for my best video, which just gets tons of suggested traffic anytime a handful of neo-Nazis make videos. Why I do not know, because it has nothing to do with Nazis, but I get tons of traffic on my videos from this like one neo-Nazi channel because I guess somebody clicked through and watched it, left a hate comment, and then left, and then someone else did, and someone else did, and now it thinks their content's similar, and it's just ugh.
Not what you want to be linked with.
No.
The chat says that save your time and sanity. You don't have to do animation, maybe just for hero content. They say they're really good, but maybe not necessary. And your on-screen presence really good, so I don't think you need animation unless there's a reason, which is true.
I mean, I could always do something that's like thought bubbly, like the thought bubble in the Crash Course videos, where
Yeah.
it's like if I need to explain something, or I could just have a section set aside to just do an animation segment. I don't know.
And you kind of already were building up assets, and you could build up more too, because they reuse a lot of theirs.
Yep, and I know that Thought Bubble is somewhere in this city. I know that they are out here somewhere, not too far away. So I should go and find them.
Yeah. I think they would totally um, have a meeting with you. They're pretty nice people. They're very
Cool.
weird and very nice.
I gotta find their office. I wonder where they're hiding.
At least from what I've seen of them on live streams. Um, yep, just general consensus in the chat.
Well, you
So,
guys have been very nice.
I like the idea of animation breaks in your two camera every minute or so. And Miriam says Thought Bubble's super responsive in tweets and emails. It's true. I've actually tweeted them like Adobe questions,
Oh my.
and they've helped. Every once in a while, not always, but if I'm like really desperate.
Yeah, I wonder if they would be responsive to being like, can I just like see you guys doing stuff? Can I just like go and look at you guys working?
Some like I'm a Crash Course Patreon person, and they'll do live streams with them, and they'll just animate. Like that would be like they'll be like, "Who do you want us to animate today, guys?" And then they'll just go through their animations. And everyone else has questions about Crash Course, but I'm always like, "But how did you do this and that?" So I think so. They like sharing that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I love to see where the magic happens.
And I think on their channel they actually had a few tutorials. They were gonna do more, but I think they got busy. Did we help you today? I hope we helped you so far.
I'm very happy. Like I was thinking through these ideas, and they were things that I was planning on doing, but I was kind of doing them solipsistically. Like I didn't. I only Kelly and I had heard about them, and so we could have just been living in our own world. And I'm glad that like you guys seem to think that these are good ideas. Because yeah, I think Step Back has a lot of potential for growth. There's obviously people who like the kind of stuff I'm doing. It's just that I need to find a way to get new people to click on it. And I think that it was because I was going too specific.
And I think even bigger people, like if you look at Destin's videos, he does the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry.
It was a problem of me not doing doing something that a lot of people do that we shouldn't as creators, and it's a long time thing, which is that you have to think about your content not from what you want to make, but from what your audience wants to see from you. You have to think with your viewer in mind, not with what you want to do in mind. And I was doing that. I was making things that I thought were interesting, but not things that somebody out there needs or would want to find. And
Or would know how to find, really.
yeah, exactly.
And I think the on-screen presence too is good, because then it always, when you see somebody excited about a topic, it draws you in more, especially if you're not familiar with that topic. So seeing you excited about something is going to be a lot better too than just hearing it in your voice and seeing it in animation.
Awesome, thank you. Yeah, I've gotten a lot of positive reactions to it. I've gotten a few animation Luddites who are like, I liked it the old way better. But I've always asked them, what did you like about them? And I never really get an answer. And so I'm not really sure how to proceed with that.
Did you see the latest comment in the chat?
So you need a balanced, be interested in what you're doing, but it can't be only who you are interested in. Blah, blah, blah. I read it. I didn't read it properly, but I read it with my eyes. Yeah, I guess I just need to be more of a teacher and less of like a hardcore, like I need to think about it like it's a college course, like, or something. Like, what does somebody need to learn? And people will learn more about their world by learning about the Great Depression than they will by learning about, like, just trying to think of an example, about garum, for example, which is actually one of my like biggest video flops in my recent past. So, you know, you want to make something that people are looking for, and I wasn't doing that.
And with the Garm video, though, the people that watched it stayed around, right? It was just not a lot of people found it.
Yeah, that's the
Yeah.
strong part of my channel, is that it has good engagement, it has good retention, and it has good subscriber growth. So when people find Step Back, they like it, but they don't find it.
She said, well, except that in college you can make them learn things they didn't know they needed to learn, and on YouTube you can't.
Yeah. I think I just needed to, I think I was being ignorant of the format, and I was not thinking through what works on YouTube and what doesn't work on YouTube. And I should think of like these other subjects as something that I should reserve for a project where discovery isn't so focused on search, which is like podcast or, I don't know, a Twitter thread or something like that. That's why other areas of social media are so good, because there's some content you just can't do on YouTube, and that's okay.
Well, I think you can do it, but I think it's more like you said, you have to be found first, and then you can do more of what you want.
Yeah, there's probably a turning point where, like, if you're a CGP Grey or something, where by making the video, you are introducing a subject into the common culture. And that's something that you can do probably when you're in 6 or 7 digits of subscribers, but not when you're in 5.
Yeah.
When you're in 5, you're still, in many ways, a baby channel trying to, like, get your name into the zone.
And do you know which one of your videos is like the most shared one? Sorry, my voice.
We could probably find that for you really fast. But I do know that the religion videos get shared quite a bit. So I know that, like, my video on Sikhism, my video on Rastafari, and those get shared quite a bit. But I'm just clicking through to the search right now.
Because it's not only like what are people searching for, but what are people going to share so people can find you.
Yep. My most searched video is my most popular video, which is about the unknown things about indigenous life before Columbus, then Sikhism, then ISIS, then I have a pretty good following in like the online hardcore leftist community. And so some of my videos that have to do with like obscure things, but obscure things that a lot of leftists know about, like the Spanish Civil War anarchist fighters, which is like one of those things that like a lot of people in this one community always want something to point to be like, look, this is a thing that everyone should know about. So like those get shared a lot. But yeah, I think and the videos that I think that there's some that are really inspirational for people to share. Like the Girl Guide video got a lot of shares. It's one of my most shared videos, but it's actually not very high on the views because I think that there was a lot of people who wanted people to see it.
And then, yeah, I mean, that's a good one to share out. Sadly,
including the Girl Scouts of America. They retweeted
that's
it.
really cool. I think I also heard a podcast about the same thing not too long ago.
Yeah, that's where the idea came from. They were reporting on a book, and then I just went and got the book. Or I read the book.
I asked the chat for any more questions or advice. I think my voice is starting to call it quits. So
yeah, we're in kind of overtime anyway. Yeah. So if you want to,
do you have any final questions or anything for everybody? And is the most helpful thing people can do is you're going to post things in like critiques and advice or brainstorming, and then we can vote on it? Is that like the most helpful thing for you?
If I'm not sure about something, I'll bring it up and I'll say, has anyone heard of this? And then if people say yes or no, then I'll know I'm on a good place.
Okay.
But because I think that I got a bit of a feel for what's too broad and what's apparently there's no such thing as too broad, but what's too specific or what's too obscure. And I think if I am unsure and Kelly is unsure, then We Create EDU, it will probably be the place to go. I also did a thing which I think that a lot of creators, especially educational creators, could do, which is that I was looking for broad topics. Like I actually was like, what is a broad topic I could do? So I went and grabbed, I've had this book that's like the Kingfisher Children's Illustrated Encyclopedia of History, of World History, that I've had since I was like, 10 or something. And I just went through that and I just took all of the subjects in it. And it was like all like the basic subjects that someone learns in a world history course. And I just said, I'm just going to write all of these down and see how they turn out. And so if you're just starting, or if you have a small channel and you want to build and get more of that search traffic, I imagine if you found like, your, I'm just going to go with like the fact that Jade's in here. So, you go with like your theoretical physics 100 level textbook, and then go through each chapter and just do a video on each of those chapters. You don't have to be like like you can make like an edutainment video about the concept, but like it's a good place to start because those are things that people are going to search for because people take courses.
Agreed.
I mean, Crash Course U.S. History is basically based on the history textbook that I used to teach out of. It's almost a video adaptation of Eric Foner's Give Me Liberty. And
Yeah.
if you notice in the American History series, they quote liberally about Eric Foner, and it's because they literally took the American History textbook, Give Me Liberty, and each chapter is an episode of Crash Course U.S. History.
Yeah, they take the AP exams and they just follow that. That's literally how they make all their courses, pretty much.
Yeah, and they are doing. I mean, they also started with Green Power and PBS Power later and all that kind of stuff. So
and like $250,000 or something from YouTube. It's helpful too.
They got a really good head start, but still, that probably got them a good way in the way.
Yeah, because a lot of people that know them now don't have any idea who Hank or John are, other than these talking heads on Crash Course.
Yeah, I think when I made Step Back, one of the things I also wanted to do was have the Crash Course history that never ends. That was the idea behind it. All right, I'm gonna let your throat take a break.
Well, thank you guys so much in the chat for helping as usual. And Jade and I don't know anything about history apparently, so you can always ask us, and we'll be your grandmas for your grandma test.
All right, sweet.
All right, thanks everybody.